Trying to figure out what happens to us when we die is something all of our ancestors have been trying to figure out. And it's no different for the ancient Scandinavian people. Today in this video, we're going to be exploring the Norse concept of the afterlife, but I'm challenging myself to do this in under 4 minutes. So let's go ahead and get started with this video discussing the Norse concept of the afterlife. And if you're like me and you were raised in a Christian household and under Christian belief systems, and really belief systems of many of the monotheistic religions in the world, there is a concept of heaven and hell, the good, the bad, the light, the darkness. And it's very clear that scholars throughout history and neo-pagans even now try to put the Norse concept of the afterlife into this binary of good, Valhalla, and bad, hell. Valhalla is the hall of the slain. It's where all the warriors go to prepare for Ragnarok. It's a place of feasting, of drinking, and of fighting. Now, people in a modern context like to put this into the heaven category. Well, if you have a good life, if you fight a good battle in this life, it's a metaphorical fight. But everything we know from the historical source material says this is a place for warriors. And it's not the only place for warriors either. There is also Folkvagner, which is the hall of Freya, and she is said to receive half of the dead slain. And so we have 2 halls for warriors. Then it's said that Hel, Helheim, is where Hel, the goddess, rules. And this is where all the people who die of old age and sickness go. And so this kind of leaves everyone out, right? You have either you're dying a warrior and you're going to one of these 2, or you're going to be everyone else. And I think a lot of people don't like that concept, and I can't say I do either. Behold, the gates to hell. Not really, it's the tomb of Johnson. But what is hell actually like according to Norse mythology? Well, there's 2 kind of answers here. So there's the one answer, it's kind of a depressing, wet place, kind of swampy. But then you also have accounts of when Balder, Odin's son, who is sent to hell for dying a non-warrior's death despite being shot with an arrow. And when Balder arrives, it says there's a massive feast prepared for him. So perhaps this is because he's a god, but again, it's not necessarily leaning towards this very depressing place. Luckily, the answer lies within these very details. Each god and goddess, the Aesir, the Vanir, and even Hel, appear to have halls of their own. And we even know that the Norse god Thor has his own hall as well, where it's said that the servants, and maybe slaves, also go when they die. Another afterlife that we know of is the hall of Aegir in Ran. Anyone that dies at sea is caught in Ran's net and is brought down into Aegir's hall, where they was presumably served as servants to Aegir's hall, who is said to have wonderful feasts, so maybe it's not that bad. And so with that, we have a lot more options now. You have Valhalla, you have Folkvagner, you have Hel, you have Thor's hall, you have Ran's and Aegir's hall. And so now we're getting a little bit more complicated, and you can see why people try to put it into this binary, because it makes it simple. This is what we know. We know the good and the bad, but the reality is much different than that. But don't worry, because absolutely everything I just told you doesn't matter. And the reason for that is simply because the only people that know what happens when we die are the people who have already died. It's the great mystery. It's the one thing we cannot solve, but it's the one thing we all have to go through at some point in our life. And to me, that is reassuring, knowing that every one of my ancestors, every one of the greatest of humanity, have done this before and will have to do it again. Oh, that also reminds me, there is a concept of reincarnation, but it's very loosely mentioned in Norse mythology. It's a little bit more mentioned in Celtic mythology, but that's besides the point. Norse paganism, what Norse mythology really captures that matters in life, is this stanza right here. Cattle die, men die, you yourself will also die, but there's one thing that never dies, and it's one who wins a good reputation. The only thing that is left behind are the people to remember you and the deeds you've done to be remembered. And with that, thank you so very much for joining me for this video. If you want to learn more about the Norse afterlife, I have other videos about it and about the various Norse deities associated with the afterlife. But thank you so much. I hope you enjoy. There's lots of other short videos, lots of other long videos. Support this channel. I wrote books. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video here at the Wisdom of Odin.